What's good? What's good? Shalom, shalom. What's up? What's up? I know y'all see the title. Road to the three-peat. Will America get their third ring? Right? Cause World War One, World War Two. We on the verge of World War Three. And if you remember the Bulls, they did their three-peat, right? So who knows? Maybe America get their third ring. Who knows? And making moves out here. So yeah, we gonna get into it. Of course, getting into these biblical prophecies and stuff. These looking into these current events that lead into that's leading into these biblical prophecies and the second coming of the Mashiach, Yahweh Shai, and establishing the real order, right, in the world. So yeah, but of course, before we get started, giving all praises to the Most High God, Yahweh, and we do so in His only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai, right, who the world better known as Jesus, right. So yeah, that's we're gonna get right into it though. Just again, we've been watching this stuff and seeing all this stuff that's going on in the news. Of course, Trump trying to distract from the Epstein files by making war with everybody else. But we're here now. White on white crime is on the rise. What happened in Minnesota. Then our Charlie Kirk guy. Because Charlie Kirk done told everybody you're more likely to get killed by a black guy. But I mean, shoot, been looking like white on white crime is a thing. If you look around on the news, right? So yeah, that's what's going on. White folks losing their mind and all that. We're gonna get into it. Let's start with Jeremiah 28 real quick. Let's go to Jeremiah 28 really quickie. Let's not do that. Hold on. Yeah, Jeremiah 28, and let's get verse 8. So, because that's what we gotta do. We gotta, when we see stuff happening and all that, we gotta tell the people. Because Jeremiah says this: the prophets that have been before me, the prophets that have been before me and before thee of old prophesied both against many countries and against great kingdoms. And that's what we're doing, right? We're prophesying against many countries and great kingdoms, and this great kingdom called the Americas. And it says prophesies against many countries and great kingdoms of war and of evil and of pestilence, right? And that's what's coming to this place: war, evil, and pestilence. The evil is already here. The war is on its way. We already seen the pestilence. They talking about this new flu virus that people already have the little C-19 stuff going on. Got the monkeypox and God knows what else is coming down the conveyor belt, right? So, and it says, and that's why we got to tell the people what's going on, because we go to these institutions and they give us a good pet rally speech. Then you go in your pocket, they pass the collection plate around 1,000,000 times, then and that's it, right? Then it says, verse 9, the prophet which prophesied peace When the word of the prophet shall come, then shall the prophet be known that the Lord have truly sent them. And that's what a lot of these pastors and these churches are doing. They're prophesying peace, talking about, oh yeah, God is going to bless you. You know, all you got to do is sow $1,000 seed. Just put your faith in that $100 seed, right? You know, God got a blessing. All you got to do is have faith, right? You tell people to have faith, right? They selling faith up in there, you know, but it says the prophet was prophesied of peace. Now, do we see peace? I mean, there's no peace on this earth. Only problems, no peace, right? But you go to church Sunday, you're gonna feel good when you walk in those doors. You're gonna feel, rejuvenated, right? And you probably say to yourself, well, I probably should. But is it of God? Is it, you got to ask yourself, could I notice the same feeling people get when they go to the club or be hanging out or they hear their little favorite music? You get that same sensation, right? But hey, those the people that people follow. But it says the prophet that which prophesies peace, and we know there's no peace going on right now. Then it says, when the word of the prophet shall come to pass, then shall the prophet be known that the Lord hath truly sent him. So all these lying pastors in there stealing everybody money, talking about all this blessing stuff coming to everybody, right? Now don't get me wrong. I know it sounds grim. Oh, why he's talking like that? It's grim, right? Don't get it twisted. It's not to say that God don't want to bless people. We're not saying that. But what we're saying is war is coming to this place. World War III. What we're saying is it's about to be all hell break loose on this planet. So it's not going to be no peace. It's going to be every man for themselves in a hot second. Before you know it, right? So it says the prophets that have been before me and before thee of old prophesied both against many countries and against great kingdoms, war and of evil and of pestilence, right? And that's what we have to look forward to, right, as we look around this place, right? Let's get Zechariah real quick. Cause we gotta understand how the Most High govern this place, how he runs this thing, right? Let's start Zechariah. Let's start at chapter 1, verse 7. Then it says, upon the 4 and the 20th day of the 11th month, which is the month of Sibat, in the second year of Darius came the word of the Lord unto Zechariah, the son of Bereshah, the son of Iddu, the prophet, saying, as saw by night, and behold, a man riding upon a horse, and he stood among the myrtle trees that were in the bottom, and behind them were their red horses, speckled and white. And then I said, O Lord, what are these? And the angel that talked with me said unto me, I will show you what these are. So he's seeing these spirits, right? These 4 horses, these 4 horsemen, and he's, seeing, but he's seeing them in, as spirits, right? They're spirits, but he's seeing them as 4 horsemen, right? So, and he's asking the angel, like, okay, what is this? What I'm looking at, right? Then the angel said, all right, I'll tell you what's up. And the man that stood among the myrtle trees answered and said, these are they whom the Lord has sent to walk to and fro through the earth. So now these are the governing spirits that the Most High God created to govern this earth, to influence people and nations, right? So they regulate things on the earth, right? That's what these four spirits do, and they, and they basically the spirit of influence, right? And it says, and they answered the angel of the Lord that stood among the myrtle trees, and said, we have walked to and fro through the earth, and behold, the earth sitteth still in at rest. So they, monitoring the situation. They, like I said, they're governing the earthly realm, and and they like, everybody chilling, everybody doing what they supposed to be doing on the planet. The earth is the earth is earthing, right? So then let's jump down to 18. So now basically, so we get the point. So it's these spirits that the Most High God created that that governs the the earth, that influence nations and people, right? Then of course you got the other entities, the other angels and etc. But whatever. But we're focusing on these four entities that govern the earth. So verse 18, it says, then lifted I up my eyes and saw, and behold, four horns. So now these four horns, right? It's talking about Britain, France, Spain, and Portugal, right? So these are the four horns, or you can also interchange Britain with America. So these are the four horns. Then it says, and I said unto the angel that talked with me, what be these? And he answered, these are the horns which scattered Judah, Israel, and Jerusalem. So again, when you get into the history of slavery, okay, we will, the kingdom of Judah, we want to put it in modern terms, the kingdom of Judah would be the so-called African Americans, Jamaicans, and Haitians, right? And we know what happened in history. We got taken over in slavery, right? And so it says, what be these? And he answered me, these are the horns which scattered Judah, Israel, and Jerusalem. So France, Portugal, Spain, Britain, they all had, a hand in our slavery. They were like the, what's the word I'm looking for? They're like the, one of the, of course the Dutch, commercialized slavery, but they was one of the first, people in the industry, that was in the slave trade, right? Those four groups, and they so happened to bring our people to this side of the world, right? And those four nations, and also those four horns. That's why they can probably interchange Britain with America, because as we get into the book of Daniel and the Revelation and talk about the four horns, then there's a little horn that rises up out of those horns. That's America, right? That took out the other horns. So then America became a great nation, right? So anywho, right, back over there. So it says, and he answered me, these are the horns which have scattered Judah, Israel, and Jerusalem. And the Lord showed me four carpenters. Right, so like I said, the four horns is those four nations that we mentioned. And if you're familiar with history, we all know that they had a massive hand in the slave trade, right? And that's how the kingdom of Israel got scattered through slavery and conquest, when you get into the history. And then and it said, and the Lord showed me four carpenters. Now these four carpenters is what we call Brick Squad, Gucci Mane, the real Pooh Shiesty, the real Pooh Shiesty Putin, the Brick Squad, Brazil, Russia, India, China, right? These are the four carpenters. And they got the S on the end, so South America, right? And all their little underlings, that's with them. But the four big ones, Brazil, Russia, India. You can interchange India with Iran and China, right? So these are the four carpenters. And it says, and the Lord showed me four carpenters. And then said I, what come these to do? So he's like, okay, what are these brick, what are the bricks is about? What the bricks gonna do, right? And it says, and we can say bricks because, of course, our dear brother Zechariah, he didn't, know that they was going to call themselves the bricks. He looking at them as, in his vision, he's seeing four carpenters that's coming to do work. Because what do carpenters do? They demolish or they refurbish. And they not coming to refurbish nothing. They demolish them, right? These are demolition squad. This is the demolition squad, right? So it says, and I said, what come these to do? And he spake, saying, these are the four horns which have scattered Judah, so that no man did lift up his head. So these four nations that enslaved the nation of Israel on this side of the hemisphere of the earth, they oppressed us to the point and beat us down to the point where we don't fight back. We don't try to, establish any type of anything. We just try to assimilate. We just want to have no justice, no peace. We want to, just, can't we all just get along, right? You know what I'm saying? That's what. Why can't we all just get along? That's how we, feeling, right? But it says, these are the four horns which scattered Judah, so that no man did lift up his head. So all of our civil rights leaders got snuffed out. All of our, would-be leaders got arrested, or some type of crazy stuff, happened with them, right? Some type of scandal, assassinations, all that stuff, right? They done, infiltrated, so many of our groups and organizations and took us down to the point where if somebody's talking like a free man, they like, oh shoot, don't you say nothing, master gonna hear you, gonna get all of us killed. What you talking like that for, right? Shoot, we some good slaves now. We see how, you saw what they did, right? So now what it say? So that no man did lift up his head. So now we in a dark style state of mind. We don't want no drama. We don't want to ruffle no feathers. We're just trying to survive, right? So it says that no man did lift up their head, but these come to fray them. So these four carpenters, the bricks wide, is coming to fray them. Meaning, let's understand this. And don't get it twisted, we're not cheering for the bricks. But according to prophecy, them destroying this place in NATO is a catalyst and a pinnacle point to our salvation and getting up out of here in the Mashiach Yahushua, who the world calls Jesus Christ, coming back. So, in hindsight, we want it to happen. If you want, Jesus to come back, right? And everything to be how it should be. I mean, in hindsight, you want it to happen, right? That's why it's crazy when you go to those institutions of religion, and they say, pray for this, pray for that nation, pray for this country, pray for America, pray for this, pray for that. I mean, you can't pray for the safety of these nations if you want Jesus to come back, because he's coming back to take crowns, right? He's coming back to have many crowns on his head. And how do you get those many crowns? I mean, I'm pretty sure we all played checkers before, how you take the other person's piece, right? And you stack it on up. That's how you're taking all these crowns. You're going to have a whole bunch of crowns. And after you snatch all the crowns, you're going to start handing them out to the righteous ones to rule this planet how it should be, right? So it says, then I said, what come these to do? And he spake, saying, these are the four horns which have scattered Judah. So no man did lift up his head, but these come to fray them, to cast out the horns of the Gentiles that lift up their horn over the land of Judah, to scatter it. So God is going to use Brazil, Russia, India, China, bricks wide, or how our dear brother Zechariah saw it, the four carpenters. He's going to use them to destroy this Western power known as NATO. And as them being destroyed, that's going to free us, right? Because, I mean, we ain't got nothing to do with this, you know? So let's get Second Ezra's real quick. It's Second Ezra's. Second Ezra's. I wanted to get. Alright, let's start at 15 first. Then we go over there. So you know, just there's a lot of stuff going on because America's toppling governments, causing dissension everywhere, not knowing that it's coming here too pretty soon, and all over everywhere, right? Let's just get right here. Let's start at verse 10. 2nd Ezra 15 and verse 10. It says, "Behold, my people was led as a flock to the slaughter." And that's what's going on with our people, because we're so assimilated into this place. We just want to just, you know, hopefully hope that they got the right plan, the right idea, the right solution for us, right? That's why we every 4 years we cast our votes and hoping that this one is going to do something, right? It says, "Behold, my people was led to the flock. My people was led as a flock to the slaughter. I would not suffer them now to dwell in the land of Egypt." So Egypt, America is spiritually called Egypt. Read about that in Revelation. So he said he's not gonna. He see the hell that we going through in this place. He see what's going on with our what ICE is doing to our people in the streets, right? Because again, I mean, where I'm at, it's a lot of Russians over here. I mean, hey, FBI or whoever be watching these type of things, you listening, it's a lot of Russians over here, alright? And I heard y'all fighting with them. I heard y'all got beef with the Russians. I mean, if y'all want, y'all could send a couple of ICE agents over here. There's a couple of Russians and a few Ukrainians over here too. I think they some deserters. I think we got some deserters over here. They need to be over there, fighting. So, I mean, I'm just saying, I'm not trying to tell ICE how to do their job, but I'm just saying, gotta watch the white ones. So, it says, I would not suffer them to dwell in the land of Egypt, because it's hell for us here, right? How they get down for us. And God is a God of justice. He cannot see and watch everything that happened to us for the last 400, 500 years and don't do nothing. You really think he's not going to do anything? That's crazy to think that. I wouldn't follow that God that wouldn't do anything. That's crazy. But that's not the God of this book, and that's not the God of Israel, right? He's a God of justice, and he's going to get him. And it says, I will bring them with a mighty hand and stretched out arm, and smite the Egyptian with plagues as before, and will destroy all the land thereof. So, and that's what's coming to this place, because America don't think it's not going to get touched. It's going to get touched. And and it's going to be swift, like it tells us, in 1 hour, in 1 day, right? And it says, Egypt shall mourn, and the foundation of it shall be smitten with the plague, and the punishment that God shall bring upon it. They that till the ground shall mourn, for the sea shall fail through the blastings of hell, and with the fearful constellations, right? So, like I said, it's because again, if you dropping, you at war, right? I mean, it's crazy because, unless we can, our grandparents, probably they probably was old enough to live through World War II, but people don't understand. Like, we should really watch documentaries of what was the civilian life like during World War II, right? Very supplies very scarce, right? Very scarce because they had to allocate a lot of that stuff to the army. They had to feed, make sure they fed and stuff like that, right? It gets crazy, right? Then imagine not only low supplies, and then now you got many civil wars breaking out, right? Sedition. So it says, woe to the world and them that dwell therein, right? And that's true. Woe, meaning destruction. For the sword and their destruction draw nigh, and one people should stand up to fight against another. Right? That's what we're seeing. Civil war. One people should fight up a race war, matter of fact. One people should stand up to fight against another. Right? You're having race war, genocides. What do you think Israel is doing to those little Palestinian people over there? It says, for the sword and their destruction draw nigh, and one people should stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hand. Right? So that's what we're seeing. And you know the modern day sword is the gun. Right? And it says, for there shall be sedition among men. And that's where we're seeing sedition. Right? People don't give a hoop nanny about nothing. Right? What did that Secretary of Homeland Security, what that devil say, what that she devil say? Now, granted, you know, we got to point this out. It is white on white crime, right? We got to point that out there. They're animals. They can't control themselves. They need to get a job. Where are they? Fathers, right? Point that out there, right? So, what she say about the white lady that they unalive in Minnesota? She basically like, yeah, you know, this is what we doing now. You know, she try to run us over, and we all saw the video. She didn't try to run nobody over, right? But it's called sedition amongst the people, right? And it's going to be more, I don't give up about the next person, because that's how we rolling now. Because it says, for there should be sedition among men and invading one another. So it's going to come upon a time where we can look in Venezuela, right, for recent history, because that's closer to us, right? Okay, now, granted, our dear buddy Maduro probably didn't do some nice things. Probably, maybe, who knows, right? But 20 years, I was, talking about this the other time. About 20-something years ago, Venezuela was one of the richest countries on this side of the hemisphere, right? Doing very well. Bush got into office, and he didn't like that. And I was telling people that this takedown of Venezuela is not an overnight thing. It's been a 20-year process. It started when Bush was in office. Then they did some stuff with their little CIA people in it. And then before you know it, the country done toppled in a civil war, and people going crazy, and money and everything is scarce. And they just had their dollar was stronger than America's dollar. And like, when was Bush president? Like 04, 05, but I know because Obama came in 08. So before 08, like I said, they're doing their thing, right? And of course, America can't have no brown country making money over here. That's crazy, right? So they put a little bug in the system 20 years ago called the CIA. And then, they do their little psyop things where they take over, they start their own little media in the country. They free, quote unquote, free speech media, and then they start propagating stuff against the leaders and the government, and start convincing the people that their government is bad. I mean, this is the playbook. I mean, they got so many documentaries and so many, so much stuff on how they do it. It's surprising that nobody knows this stuff. Like, it's surprising that it continues to keep working. They've been doing it since the Greeks, since they was calling themselves Greeks. They've been doing it. Then when they decided to be Romans, they start doing it. Right? It's the same play. Right? I mean, it works. That's why I say I made a joke like, if you're a basketball fan in the '90s, you had the Utah Jazz. They had Stockton and Malone. They had the pick and roll, right? The simple basketball play, pick and roll. But whenever Stockton and Malone did the pick and roll, it was unstoppable, unguardable, right? It was the master of the pick and roll. Everybody knew they was going to do the pick and roll. Everybody know when Stockton got the ball, here come Karl Malone, it's a pick and roll. But what you going to do, right? We know what they going to do. They've been doing it for 2,000 years or more. Right? So it says, for there shall be sedition among men, invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes. So, just like how the people did poor Gaddafi and dragged him out in the streets and beat him to death in front of the cameras of the world, you think it ain't gonna be like, what it say? For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes. Meaning, when the president come on TV and say, okay, everybody relax, calm down, go back to your houses, we ain't listening to that. When your governor come on TV and be like, okay, everybody chill, we're gonna put out a curfew, bring out the National Guards, ain't nobody listening to that, right? It says, they shall not regard their kings nor princes. In the course of their actions should stand in their hands. Meaning, whatever they want to do, they're going to do it, and the government ain't going to be able to do jack duty about it. But just take that L, and the people are going to take the thing. The January 6th. That's basically to sum it all up, right? And it's going to work this time, right? Because the Bible says so. It says, and they shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. And because, like I said, whenever they decide to riot, especially dumb people, I like to say, whenever they get mad, things happen. They just don't be mad and just be mad, and then maybe their anger kind of subsides a little bit. Nah, it don't happen with them. When they're angry and they're mad, something is going to happen, right? And then it says, no man should desire, it says, a man should desire to go into a city and should not be able. So it's going to be martial law. It's going to be people like, hey, where you going? What you coming in here for? What's your business over here, right? Let me see your ID, right? What state you from? Huh? Or are you a blue state or are you a red state? Huh? Who do you vote for? It's going to say, a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. For because of their pride, the city shall be troubled. Because it's going to be civil war. We can see the makings of it. What did the little guy in Minnesota say? He told ICE to get up out of here, right? And truthfully, if we can be truthful about it, the mayor controls the police. So if the mayor tells the police, hey, this is what we're going to do. We're going to... Matter of fact, why don't you control the police? Why don't you, if you really feel that way about it, go arrest that ICE agent. Because the ICE agent is not, bound by the same type of law that the police is. You can arrest them for stuff like that, So why don't you go arrest the man, right? Just kick this thing off, right? Just police versus ICE. Just do it, right? We can see how that stuff can happen. The governor has control over the National Guards. If he say, all right, National Guards, don't let nobody from Illinois or whoever come in here, right? Then Wisconsin be like, all right, National Guards, we locking up the border. Ain't nobody in, nobody out. And we going to war with Montana. to take their cows because they got all the milk over there. Whatever, whatever the reason may be, civil war can happen, and we can see it. We see the beginning stages of it. Everybody is mad about something, and it ain't gonna be as clear cut as it was like, the first Civil War, where you had the North versus the South, and everybody knew what they was fighting for. It's a lot of different factions, a lot of different groups that's mad about something and they want something, right? We see, like, you can see it when next protest you see about any type of social justice, whatever type of stuff, right? See what that issue is, but then look at all the protesters that's out there. Look at the different signs and all the stuff that's come out there. Like, it can be somebody that just got unalived by the police. They're protesting, but then there's going to be somebody out there for gay rights out there protesting as well, or somebody for abortion, or all this other stuff, all walking around in the whole protesting march. Just pay attention. This next protest you ever see on TV, just read everybody's signs, and you will see that everybody's mad about something, right? So, and it says, because of the pride of the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. Right? So, because people are going to be running up in other people's houses. Because think about it. The thing is, what people, we like to think we live in such a lawful society. But people don't understand. One of the main reasons why a lot of us can be safe or feel safe, or kind of relax a tiny bit, because there's something called 911, right? But what if one day what if you pick up the phone and you dial 911, you hear a busy tone, you hear a dial tone, right? 911 is not picking up. And you know what? It's a lot of crazy people that want to be crazy and will be crazy if it wasn't for the police. That's the only thing that's keeping them in check. But then it's a dial tone. Police ain't answering because the police trying to protect their family. They ain't going nowhere. They got to make sure their people is safe, right? So then here comes all the crazy people, because there's nothing stopping them now, right? And it says, a man will have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread. Because in that day, like I said, we have to watch these documentaries about the civilian life of war wars, of the first two world wars, and how stuff was so scarce, right? So imagine in this time it's going to be amped up, right? Imagine, like I said, chaos everywhere. Then, so maybe they even got the mark of the beast out right now, and maybe you one of those people that don't got the mark, and somebody got it, but you might have to run up in somebody's crib to get something. What people gotta understand, it's gonna come if we live long enough, we're gonna see some things and probably do some things that we never ever thought we might have to do, right? To survive, right? And you're gonna have to be prepared to do those things, right? And we prepare ourselves by learning the playbook, just like you join a team, the coach give you the playbook, and this is the playbook, right? But we just don't read it. So, and it says, and spoil their goods because of lack of bread and great tribulation. So, people are going to be hungry in that day. People do a lot of strange things for food. I mean, it's a lot of stories where people be stranded in the mountains and stuff, and they end up eating their own arm and stuff, right? Hunger makes you do a lot of crazy stuff, right? We live in America. We don't know what hunger is. You might get a little stomach pain, and your stomach feel a little empty. You get something to eat and go to the store, go look in the refrigerator, right? There's people in other countries that actually know what hunger is, right? And America's going to know that pretty soon too, Then it says, Behold, said God, I will call together all the kings of the earth to reverence me, which are from the rising sun and from the south, from the sea and from Lebanon, to turn themselves one against another. So God is gonna make them just like, you're a little kid, you got your little child, and they playing with their little action figures and they making them fight like gonna make them turn and fight, right? Because that's what he does. He's the God of war, right? And since these people don't hate blood, like it tells us in, I believe, Ezekiel or Isaiah, he said they don't hate blood. So since they don't hate blood, he's going to make them drink the blood. And how are they going to drink it? By unaliving each other until there's nothing, right? So it says, Behold, said God, I will gather together all the kings of the earth to reverence me, which are from the rise of the sun and from the south, from the east of Lebanon, and to turn themselves one against another and to repay the things that they have done to them. Right? That's how he's going to get them back with this World War III Armageddon, by making them fight each other and causing all this static. Right? Let's get Jeremiah 50 and 22. Right? So it says, a sound of battle is in the land and great destruction. So that's what we're seeing when we turn on TV, a sound of battle. All these different nations gearing up to fight each other, fighting each other. China, Taiwan, all these different nations, right? It says, the sound of battle is in the land. America, Venezuela, Nigeria, the man talking about Greenland. The man wants to take Canada, right? The man's talking about Canada, wanted to make Canada the 51st state, right? So a sound of battle is in the land. And the funny thing is, Canada is a NATO member, is an EU member. Greenland is an EU member, right? But like it tells us in the book of Daniel, chapter 2, the kingdom is divided. So it says, how is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? What is the hammer? America is the hammer. How are they the hammer? Because they have the strongest military currently, and they have the most military garrisons all over the world. They can attack any nation within 12 to 48 hours anywhere on the planet. They have the fastest response time when it comes to military action, because they're everywhere, in every country down there, right? 160 something military garrisons, right? And there's only 180 something countries, I believe, or 190 something, I don't know, right? But they're everywhere. And it says, how is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? How has Babylon become a desolate among the nations? Right? How is America going to become desolate among the nations? Because this big, strong, powerful nation, right? Military. How does it become desolate? Those ICBM missiles that China and Russia got. Right? It says, I have laid a snare for thee, and thou art also taken, O Babylon. So God said, I'm laying a trap for you, right? You don't even see the trap. I'm just walking you down the line, right? O Babylon, thou was not aware, thou art found and caught, and also caught, because thou hast strived against the Lord. And that's what they do. Everything, America is contrary to the Most High God. Everything they do is contrary to the Most High God. Their laws they pass, their philosophies, the way of life, everything, right? The Lord had opened his armory and had brought forth the weapons of his indignation. So God said, I'm going to bring all my heavenly weapons, all my power that I got. I'm opening up the war chest on you. Right? That's what I'm doing. Matter of fact, popping open the war chest and it's going down. Right? The Lord has opened his armory and has brought forth the weapons of his indignation. That's them ICBM missiles. That's them nuclear warheads that Russia like to parade around, that Korea like to put on TV and show them marching down the street with, that China got, right? That was talking about this thing is hypersonic. It can destroy and hit America within 35 minutes and do a whole lot of, a whole lot of damage, right? That's his, his weapons of war. That stuff that it's just another weapon that they got, that Russia got. The stuff is crazy. I forgot the name of it, but it's a little bit, it's the second strongest after a nuclear bomb. This thing sets air on fire, right? What type of stuff is that? It sets air on fire, right? And that's crazy because the Bible talks about people being burnt from the inside out, right? In this war. And think about it. You got oxygen. Your lungs taking oxygen, right? It sets air on fire. Air is everywhere. That's what type of bomb they got. That's crazy. And they tested it out. I think it was about a couple of years ago when they was doing their thing and that messed up a whole town in Ukraine or something. So there was like a abandoned building that they was showing the world, like, look what we got. We got a bomb that burn air, right? Crazy. But it says, boom, boom, boom. Hold on, let's get this real quick. Let's get some of these real quick. Let's get Exodus real quick. Exodus 15. So we got to understand the type of God he is, right? Because everybody, think that God is just love. But the Bible says that a false balance or unjust balance is abomination. So God is not just one emotion. Just like you're not just one emotion, right? Because the Bible tells us this in Exodus 15:3. The Yahweh is a man of war. The Lord is a man of war. The Lord is his name, right? Yahweh is his name. So he's the Lord of war, right? And we got to understand that. That's why he's putting the spirit on these nations. That's why we read about those 4 spirits that govern the earth and how they, go around and influencing different nations to do things, right? Let's get Revelation hold on. No, let's get Revelation 9 real quick. Hold on, do I want it right now? Yeah, we can read it, boom. So Revelation 9 in and alright, we start at 15. So Revelation 9:15 says, and the four angels were loose, which were prepared for an hour and a day and a month and a year to slay the third part of man. Right? So again, these 4 angels, those 4 spirits, right? And to slay a third part of men, because they're going to influence these nations through war. That third war, right? Is what it's talking about. Let's get really quick. 2nd Ezra 13 and 29. Second Ezra. So yeah, Second Ezra 13 and 29, and it says this: Behold, the days come when the Most High will begin to deliver them that are upon the earth. To deliver them that are upon the earth, and he shall come to astonishment of them that dwell on the earth, and one shall overtake and fight against another, one city against another, one place against another, one people against another, and one realm against another. So civil war, race war, world war is coming, right? And a lot of these places are already experiencing some of these things. Venezuela they had a civil war, right? All these other nations and stuff, it's chaotic everywhere, right? And it says, and the time shall be when these things shall come to pass, and the signs shall happen, which I showed thee before, and then shall my son be declared, whom thou sawest as a man ascended. So again, how we stated in the beginning, we're not cheering for Russia in a BRICS war. I don't know why I say it like that. You gotta help me why I say it like that. We're not cheering for them, right? But the destruction of this place says, then shall my son be declared, whom thou sawest as a man ascended. So the catalyst to Christ's return is the destruction of America and NATO, right? To help us out. So, and it says, and when all the people heard his voice, every man shall in their own land leave the battle they have one against another. So when Christ come back with the millions, gotta say it like The Rock, and the millions of angels with him. So all these nations that fight against each other, right? So they're gonna see this black man crack the sky, and they're gonna be like, oh shoot, what the heck is that? Okay, hold on, let's put this fight on hold, time out. Let's go fight that guy. Let's go see what's going on with this thing coming through the sky with the millions and millions of angels with him, right? So, and it says, and when all the people heard his voice, every man shall in their own land leave the battle and have one against another. So they're going to stop fighting each other and come to try to fight Christ and the angels, right? So, real quick, if you got any children, don't let them get in the army, because if they get in the army, they will not make it out, because they will be trying to fight against Christ, and of course, I mean, you don't want to fight against Christ, especially when he come back. That's crazy. So, yeah, right, then, where we at? Then it says, in an innumerable multitude. Oh, let me read this one more time. It says, and when the people heard his voice, and every man shall in their own land leave the battle they have one against another. Right? Because again, like I said, so, they're going to want to come and fight this man, for whatever reason. And of course, I'm guessing, this just my personal opinion. I don't think when they see him come, they're going to be like, oh, that's Jesus, or whatever they want to call him, and be like, oh, let's go fight him. I think they're going to think it's some type of extraterrestrial entity coming, and they're going to probably try to think they can fight it. That's what I think they're probably going to think, right? Because what else would you think? If something come to the sky with the millions and millions of other angels with it, you'd be like, that is a dang old UFO. right? We gotta get our Independence Day on. Where's Will Smith, right? So that's what is going to be going down, right? Then it says, and a innumerable multitude shall be gathered together as thou sawest them willing to come and to overcome him by fighting. So when they see this, they can be like, "Oh shoot, dang, let's go." Cause you know Esau, we all know Esau. You know they're up in Russia wrestling bears. You know they hear a scary noise, they go to it, and like, "Hey, what's going on over there?" Right? They have no fear. They have no conscious, concept of death, right? They're very fearless people, right? So what it say? Fearless being meaning a synonym for the stupid, right? Then what it say? Says in a innumerable multitude shall gather together as thou saw them, willing to come to overcome him by fighting. But he shall stand upon the top of the mountain of Mount Zion, and shall come and shall come and shall and bestow and be showed to all men, being prepared and built like as thou as saw the hill graven without hands. And it says in my so anyway, yeah, so he's gonna protect the people, because we get into this, the Armageddon portion of the whole thing is when like they thinking they can come and gonna actually do something to Christ, but no, it's crazy. And the people, and it says but he shall stand on the top of the Mount of the Mount Zion, meaning he's going to protect the people, because in that day we're going to be in the wilderness, and then the armies of the world is going to try to J down on us, and he's going to have to protect the people, right? And then 144,000 is going to be fighting with him. Well, actually the 144,000 is going to do all the fighting, when we get into it, but that's a whole another lesson for another day. Then alright, let's get where we at? So back over here it says and by these the third part of man was killed by fire and by smoke and by brimstone. This is Revelation 9 and 15. Oh no, just start back at you can jump back up to 15. Revelation 9 and 15. And the four angels were loose, which were prepared for an hour and a day and a month and a year to slay the third part of men. And the number of the army and the horsemen were 200,000, and the number of them. And thus I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them, having breastplates of fire, and a javelin, and a brimstone, and the heads of horses were as heads of lions, and out of their mouth issued fire and smoke and brimstone. Right? Oh, that sounds spooky, right? But no, this is talking about the fighter jets, right? Talking about how those bombers, the breastplate. Let me read it again. It says, and I saw thus the horses in a vision, and them that sat on them. So it's talking about these fighter jets, right? And it says their breastplates are fired, because underneath the fighter jet will be the breastplate. Then you have the rockets that sit underneath the fighter jets, right? We all seen the little fighter jets, right? Then it says, in the javelin and the brimstone in the heads of the horse were like the head of a lion. So a lion roars. So that means this fighter jet fires these missiles out the front of of course the airplane, the jet. And we all saw videos of these fighter jets firing their missiles. So our dear brother John, in his technical reference, in his, because he lived 2,000 years ago, never seen an airplane in a day of his life, so he's referencing it to the stuff that's in his time, so he can understand what he's looking at. So, and it says, and by these three were the third part of men killed by fire and by smoke and by brimstone, because those fighter jets is dropping missiles and bombs on everybody. Those little unmanned drones that they got, those hypersonic gliders that China got, right? And it says, for the power is in their mouth. Okay, now that's going to something else. Boom. So then let's get Isaiah 24 real quick. Isaiah 24 and 20. Let's start at 19. Isaiah 24:19. The earth is utterly broken down. The earth is clean dissolved. Why? Because of nuclear war. All these nations is firing off their missiles and destroying everything, right? And it says the earth is utterly broken down. The earth is clean dissolved. The earth is moved exceedingly, because these bombs they got is going to cause seismic activity, which is earthquakes. It's going to cause tsunamis. It's going to cause a lot of natural disasters to follow after they hit, right? Because again, especially depending on where it hits at, like I said, it can cause a tsunami, earthquakes, because depending on where it hits, because these bombs are way more powerful than they was 60 something years ago. And it says the earth is utterly broken down. The earth is clean dissolved. The earth is moved exceedingly. The earth shall reel to and fro like a drunkard. Because again, seismic activity, earthquakes everywhere, right? The planet haven't experienced nothing like that. Everywhere, earthquakes, just going crazy, right? And it says, because of this, the bombing and everything else. Then it says, the earth shall wheel to and fro like a drunkard, and shall be removed like a cottage, and the transgression thereof shall be heavy upon it, and it shall fall and not rise again. Meaning this society, this world, this age, it's not going to come back up after this battle. See, that's why we title it, on the road to the three-peat. Will America get their third ring? Because the First World War, that was a come up for America. They started doing their thing. The king started booming a little bit. Then, kind of, the Great Depression hit, kind of messed up stuff a little bit. Then, so about 10 years later, boom, another war. America is now back superpower, and they've been superpower ever since the second World War II. So, I mean, hey, it's looking like war is big business. So they like, well, shoot, we need another war. So they thinking, so we can come out clean on this one. We can get that three-peat. We can, three is a charm. Right? So, what it's saying, the earth shall reel to and fro like a drunkard, and shall be removed like a cottage, and the transgression thereof shall be heavy upon it, and it shall fall and not rise again. Meaning this earth age, this society is not coming back, right? Utter destruction. It's not going to be, okay, well, war is over, so everybody just rebuild and just go back to normal, Nah. It will never, ever, ever be the same, right? Because a black man by the name of the Mashiach Yahushai, who the world knows as Jesus Christ, he's going to be on the planet ruling. And he ain't going for none of that, right? Let's get back to Jeremiah. Let's get, matter of fact, let's get Zephaniah really quick. Okay, Zephaniah 1:18. Yeah, 1:18. Neither their silver nor their gold shall be able to deliver them in the day of the Lord's wrath. So the rich, they're not going to be able to save themselves that day. No matter how much money you have that day, when the Most High God come to visit this place, we all going to have the same amount of money that day. So no matter who you think you may be, Rockefeller to the little drug addict on the corner, and that day you all going to be the same. Because it says, neither their silver nor gold shall be able to deliver them in the day of the Lord's wrath. Because your money is not going to mean anything that day, right? All those little bunkers that they built underground to try to hide and think they're going to wait out, it's going to be their tomb, right? Then it says, but the whole land shall be devoured by fire of his jealousy, for he shall make even a speedy readiness of all them that dwell in the land. So God is not playing with this place, right? Utter destruction, right? Let's get Isaiah 54. Isaiah 54. And I think Isaiah 54 and 16. Yeah, Isaiah 54 and 16 says this. Behold, I have created, and we got to understand, because keep in mind, we just read Exodus 15 and 3. The Lord is a man of war. Yahweh is his name, right? Keep that in mind. It says, Isaiah 54 and 16. Behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coal in the fire. So who's the smith, right? Who's the modern day smith? Because, back then you had the blacksmith, you had the the leathersmith, the goldsmith, the weaponsmith, whatever smith, to make things, right? So who is the modern day smith? These scientists, these military engineers, right? It says, I had created the smith that bloweth the coal in the fire, and to bring forth a instrument for his work. So these scientists, these nuclear scientists, these military scientists, they're working hard trying to come up with weapons and how to better improve their military. America spends gazillions and gazillions of dollars on their military each year, right? More than any other nation in the world, right? It says, behold, I created the smith that bloweth the coal in the fire, that bring forth the instrument for his work, and I created the waster to destroy. What is the waster? That ICBM, those nuclear warheads that the Most High put the spirit on those German and Russian scientists to create, right? To destroy themselves. Isn't that something? The Most High God make use them to create a weapon that's going to destroy themselves, right? That's what he did. So he, created the it says, behold, I created the smith in the west to blow the it says, behold, I created the smith that bloweth the coal in the fire, and that bringeth forth the instrument for his work, that I have created the waster to destroy. So that is these nuclear weapons that these countries possess now, right? And the Most High God put the spirit on these scientists, these inventors, these nuclear scientists, to figure out, hey, I wonder if I take this atom and crack it open, what would happen, right? And they did that, and they found there was a whole bunch of energy get released. I'm like, oh, okay, maybe we can blow some stuff up with this. So the Most High God put the spirit on them, right? Because the Most High judgment is like a ring. What goes around come around, right? That's why he said he's going to pay them back with their own blood, since they hate not blood. They hate not spilling blood, because they go around the earth unaliving everything. So the Most High God said, okay, I got something for you. You're going to create your own instrument of death. And you're going to use it on yourselves. Let's get Daniel. Let's get Revelation real quick. Let's get Revelation 12 and 7 real quick. And it says, and there was a war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought against his angels. So now, this is, a lot of people might, oh, this is mystical. This is Michael and the angels. So now this is talking about, because again, these are spirit. Remember we read about the 4 spirits that govern the earth, and he uses to, these angels, these spirits are used to, for the lack of better terms, influence people and nations. So Michael is the protector of Israel, so he's going to be fighting with us. We're going to have that spirit of Michael fight against these the dragon. Who's the dragon? The so-called Caucasian man, right? It's not the spiritual demon Satan who everybody want to contribute to, because the Bible is very practical, right? It's not, if you try to make it seem like God and the devil are going to fight and clash, you're no longer believing the words of this book. You're now following Greek and Roman mythology. That's what you're following now, right? So that's not in here, right? But what is in here is, there was a war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought against his angels. So, and the dragon is the Roman Empire, aka America, NATO, right? And we already we just read about how in Apocrypha, in Ezra, how the armies of the world is going to try to come and fight against Christ and his angels, right, and his people, right? So it's not anything happening up in the spirit world, and some, because some people would teach this is like a battle before time and all this stuff, and this is how Satan got kicked out of heaven, and all this crazy Egyptology, Babylonian, Greek mythology type stuff that people done mixed in, right? But no, it's very clear, very simple than that. Michael protects Israel. He's the angel that protects Israel, and the spirit of Michael is going to be fighting with us when Russia and the rest of the surviving armies try to come and attack us. Simple, right? We covered that in when we did, the whole Armageddon thing, right? So yeah, back over here. Let's get Daniel. Look at the book of Daniel, chapter 10. And 13. Sorry, Daniel 10 and 13 says this. It says, "But the prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me 120 days. But lo, Michael, one of the chief prince, came and helped me, and I remained there with the king of Persia." So now again, so we see Michael again, you know, fighting against the king of Persia, right? And helping his other angel fight against the king of Persia. So, but this is how we got to understand it, because you got to understand it in a spiritual sense. So it's not that Michael physically was fighting against the king of Persia along with this other angel. What was going on when you get into the history of the Persian Empire during this time? He had beef with his brother, and and so, and there was, how like in those days and stuff when they had kings and stuff, oftentimes the next in line will probably assassinate the person that's above them so they can get their position and all that stuff, right? So the angel was sent to influence this guy to go to war to take the kingdom from his brother, but he was fighting against his urges, because you got to look at it in a 3D world and on a spiritual side. So in the 3D world, he's like, man, that's my brother. I can't do that. We grew up together. Got the same mama, all that, same that. And I can't do that, man. That's my brother. I love my brother. But then the angels influencing them by telling them, how people let power and greed overcome their thoughts and thinking. So then he was trying to influence them. Then he needed the help of Michael to help push him over that edge to make him go fight against his brother to for they can take power and all that stuff, right? So that's when you get into when you understand the history part of it, then you better understand this portion of it when it's talking about him trying to convince the king of Persia, right? So then let's get look at 2nd Ezra 16 real quick. And what? Hold up. Alright, let's start at 13. And it says 2nd Ezra 16, chapter 16, verse 13 says this: "For strong is his right hand that bendeth the bow, his arrow that shooteth are sharp and shall not miss, even they begin to shoot unto the ends of the world." So, they be China nuclear capability top notch. Like I said, they got those hypersonic gliders that's undetectable, because it flies way up in the sky, up in the in the ionosphere, right? That by the time it's detectable, it's too late. You just got time to duck and hide by the time you realize what's going on, right? So it says, "For strong is his right hand that bendeth the bow, his arrows that he shoot are sharp and shall not miss." Meaning America's missile defense system is going to be non-effective in that day, right? So Russia, China, Iran, whoever, whatever coordinates they type in that missile launch pad, it's going to get there, and it's going to do what it need to do, because it says, strong is his right hand that bendeth the bow, his arrows that shoot are sharp and shall not miss, when they begin to shoot unto the ends of the world. And again, China is on that side, and they say they got a hypersonic weapon that can hit this place within 35 minutes. Russia got some stuff over there, they say they can hit this place within 45 minutes. Just so happened, the Bible says this place will be destroyed within an hour, right? So you do the math, right? So it says, strong is his right hand that bendeth the bow, his arrows that he shoot are sharp and shall not miss, when they begin to shoot into the ends of of the world, right? He says, behold, the plagues are sent and shall not return again until they come upon the earth. So meaning God said this stuff was going to happen, and it's going to happen, and it's not going to not happen until it happens. So there's nothing we can say or do about it. But the only thing we can do is talk about it and prophesy about it and tell people that this is what's going down, right? So we gotta let everybody know what's happening, right? Hold on real quick. Shalakia. Hold on. Shalakia. Shalakia. Crazy. Anyway. Then it say, then where we at? Then hold on. Says okay, behold, the plagues are sent and shall not return again until they come upon the earth. The fire is kindled and shall not be put out until it consume the foundation of the earth. So, like I said, everything we just read is going to happen, and it's going to happen the way God said it's going to happen. And we just got to prepare ourselves for when it happens. And that's why we're reading about the stuff and seeing what stuff was going on, right? So let's get where are we at? Wait, All right, let's go back to Jeremiah 51. Right, and it says let's start back at 24. I had laid a snare for thee, and thou art also taken, O Babylon, and thou was not aware. Thou art found and also caught, because thou have strived against the Lord. So God said, I'm laying a trap for you, because you know, it's contrary to, to me. Everything you do, you're an enemy to me, right? You made yourself an enemy. And it says, the Lord has opened his armory and have brought forth his weapons of his indignation. For this is the work of the Lord, God of hosts, in the land of Chaldeans. So then it says, come against her from the utmost border, open her storehouse, cast her up as heap, and destroy her utterly. Let nothing of her be left. Right? So that's what's going to happen to this place. It's going to be utterly destroyed. Let's get Revelation real quick. Right? And of course, hopefully we're trying to get saved up out of here, right? And although we're talking about all this destruction and all this stuff, the sweet part is, by us being Israelites, the Black, Hispanic, and Native American people, we the only one that's qualified to get up out of this. Everybody else got to, deal with the thing, right? Now, unfortunately, a lot of us is gonna not want to get up out of here. Some of us gonna have to die in the land of our captivity. That's the unfortunate part of the whole thing. But understanding that this truth, this gospel, this salvation is for us, and it's only, offered to us, and we should accept it, because if you really want to know the truth, there ain't nowhere you can run and hide from a nuclear bomb if you want to know. So, you might as well get on the side of the Lord, right? Because he's on your side. That's why he's doing all of this, right? So, Revelation 18. Let's start at verse 4. Revelation 18 and 4. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins. So that's what we got to do. We got to disconnect from this place. Spiritually, mentally disconnect from this place, right? don't fall for the stuff that they propagate, to us, right? Come back to our nationality and our culture as a people who God called us to be, right? It says, and I heard another voice from heaven saying, "Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye are received not of her plagues. For her sin has reached unto heaven, and God hath remembered her iniquities." So God is marking down all the stuff this place have been doing over the years, and they're not going to get away with it, because again, He is a God of justice, right? And He's just waiting, like we say, like it's like the FBI. The FBI doesn't arrest you the first time you commit a crime. The FBI put tabs on you and they watch you for a while. Then once they get tired of you, then that's when they bring the hammer down, and then they have a 98% conviction rate, right? So that's how the Most High works. He might not get you the first time you do something, but when He gets you, He gonna get you, and you gonna know why, right? And it says, "Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and God hath remembered her iniquities. Reward her, even as she rewarded you, and double unto her, double according to her work." So God is going to pay these people back double. Whatever they have done to us is going to get done to them 2 times, right? They're going to get finessed 2 times, right? And it says, "How much is she have glorified herself and lived deliciously?" Because America has robbed and stolen and took from everybody, not just us, but everybody. That's why the whole world is pissed off at them. Everybody, right? It says, how much she have glorified herself and lived deliciously, so much torment and sorrow gave her, for she said in her heart, "I sit as a queen." So America thinks they're untouchable. America thinks they sit as a queen. A queen is like Dante, you know what I'm saying? And America thinks like, look, we can do whatever we want to everybody else, and ain't nobody going to touch this American soil over here. Because it says, "I sit as a queen, and I am no widow, and shall see no sorrow." Meaning, America think they're this biggest, strongest ever. They never lost a war. Let them tell it. Strongest military. They don't know what it is to lose, right? So it says, "I sit as a queen, I am no widow, and shall see no sorrow. Therefore shall her plagues come. Therefore shall her plagues come in one day." What we talked about, because it says one day, death and mourning, famine, and she shall be utterly burnt with fire. So in one day this place will be taken down, right? Rome fell over a course of centuries. America is going to fall in one day, according to the Bible. "Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she should utterly burnt with fire. For her strong is the Lord who judges her." So she's going to be burnt with fire. What is that fire? Those ICBM nuclear missiles that these countries got pointed at this place, right? And it says, "For strong is Yahweh power who judges her." Because God is judging this place. He's using these other nations to judge this place, right? Let's jump down to verse 20. "Rejoice over her, thou heaven, and ye holy apostles and prophets, for God has avenged you on her." So God is doing all of this. When you flip on the news, you see all this chaotic stuff going around the world, and then God is doing all of this for the vengeance of His people, because it's all coming to one point called Armageddon, World War III, when Christ comes back, and it ain't gonna be no 3P for these people, right? And it says, "Rejoice over her, thou, O heaven, ye holy apostles and prophets, for God has avenged you on her. So God is going to take down this place for us, right? And we got that's love, baby, right? You got to understand that He's about to rearrange and change the whole face of this planet for His people, right? That's what He about to do. And how is He going to do it? Verse 21. A mighty angel took up a great stone like a millstone and cast it into the sea. And it says, dust with violence. How is America going to fall? Is it going to just one day you're going to wake up and kind of not going to be America no more? It says, dust with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all. Right? That's the destination for this place. That's the plan. That's the Most High God plan to eradicate this place for all the evil it has been doing. So let them do what they do. When we turn on the news, we see them doing them things. Just understand that the Most High God ain't gonna put up with it for too much longer, right? And as Russia and everybody else is doing what they're doing, we're getting closer and closer, right? So hopefully that's edifying. I'm gonna say shalom, peace. Till next time. Yep. Shalom.